you everybody for going through this process. What we're going to do is have each table come up one at a time and just kind of share with the group concisely as you can, kind of kind of the nuggets that came out of this. So you're not going to spend 20 minutes telling us everything you talked about. But maybe 2 or 3 of the nuggets that really came out of all of your table discussion. Or the bigger question of what's next? So, I'm going to do my best to be describing, but. Would you mind going first? Yeah. So I need you to come up near the iPad so they can hear you.
I would say that somebody else.
Wow, this is way more.
We didn't know what we were signing up for.
So you stick it right there, and then you can talk into this. Okay.
Look at that.
Have you given them my debt service? Are we ready? Can you hear us, Jamie?
Just saying.
All right.
Yeah.
I heard.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had some great conversations.
Yes.
It started out with the first question, I don't know exactly what the questions were, but one of the things about the group that everybody agreed was the relationships, the intimacy, and the learning, and the storytelling. And the storytelling was a big part of it. And then the questions of how does this group grow, where does it go? We talked about bringing younger people, possibly, in other sort of industries, and how do we do that? How do we make it sustainable? I think the intimacy that, as Bill said, that this conference is reasonably identified by hugging, which is a great thing. And then, like the future, we talked about TikTok, for instance, the podcast. Ian had a great point about the economy. I think of there's a TikTok community that wants to have things in minutes, but there's still young people that are actually watching an hour and a half or listening now to podcasts. How does that relate to how we convey information that we learn here? And then some of the questions in the size group were, what do we do for sustainability? Should this community find a paid administrative group or not? They're trade-offs, right? So that's sort of maybe one of the great ideas that you said, which maybe everybody should invite a young person next time and pay their way. Somebody in a different field than you always have. That's basically all I got to say.
Yeah. Well done.
All right. Oh.
Lori Strong's going to step up and speak to her table.
All my table groups. Okay. I'm going to try to not cover like what I heard the last team saying, so maybe we can build on each other. So some of our, it's so weird not to be able to see everyone. Some of our really interesting concepts were keeping the theme of connection alive. How do we have more frequent connections throughout the year leading up to a bigger event? So whether that is, yeah.
Jamie's asking to change the view. How do you want to change, Jamie? View on Ellen's screen to gallery.
Does that work?
Here.
Yes.
All right. Is this working?
Okay, I'll try this way. This way.
Well, did we get what you're asking for?
Doesn't need to be in front of the screen.
Right.
Yes, she doesn't need to be in front of her.
Oh, with this,
You don't need to be in front of her.
Oh.
do we make this screen?
Yeah,
No, not
it
yet.
gets a little busy with her and
We
her
need
image
the
right
Jamie on
behind
the
her.
screen. Hey, Jamie on the screen.
There you go. What if we do that?
A novel solution.
Does that work?
We can't see them. Okay, post.
I know we can't see the online people, but it's hard to see.
Okay.
Like, yeah, this is hard. Okay, so we did talk about, so I'm just gonna hit on the connection a little bit. So how do we connect, whether it's individually, there's some ideas about how do we know what each other is good at so that we can connect individually. Also in small groups, possibly like regional hubs, like different hubs around themes, but how do we keep that energy going and then maybe have a less frequent in-person, like maybe every other year for a big in-person event, but keep that momentum going throughout. We also talked about connecting different groups of knowledge, like the theory of constraints, systems thinking, value analysis, but more intentional learning and teaching. And then I'm going to just touch organization for a moment. How do we want to disrupt or innovate? What is our aim as an organization? How do we want to build leaders, build that pipeline? I know you all talked about that too. How do we bring new people into the system and be more intentional about how we're building community, how we're sharing information through communication, content strategy, and how do we like tap into all the collective knowledge that we have and use that on ourselves, essentially. So I think those are some high points. Awesome. Okay, thanks.
You can take it and.
Okay, then we can just cover it up again.
Lori, we'll go through all our tables.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Get them to
Okay.
Okay, so the first question having to do with what was the value when we got out of it? Came up with inspiration, comfort and warmth, exploration and connection. Why should we be doing this, and what might it look like out into the future? We ought to continue. We do this to continue the exploration and sharing and spreading the awareness. What it might look like, it might be physical location, physical presence, location once a year, and then monthly or quarterly things that are virtual opportunities so more people can get involved, and having to do with fostering and stewarding the future is we need to get younger people involved, and we recognize the younger people are more digitally attuned, and we thought we should develop a what's in it for me kind of a sales pitch, and we can get some of that from talking to newbies who've been to this and see what they got out of the event here, and develop a trigger kind of a thing, like dancing with a system or something might attract some attention, and then develop possibly a young face host for these trigger events, the monthly events, to suck people in or invite them in. That's it.
Is kidnapping not a favorite?
We got the oldest guy in the room giving you what to do with the social media.
Makes sense. It's right in front of us all the time.
Oh.
Hello. Oh, I guess I need to play the whistle. Good morning. What we decided, what we received was a list of, we got a lot of energy out of the experience. We were inspired by one another and charged up to see old friends, renew old friendships. We found a coherence and safe space to think out loud. And Yosh gets full credit for this one. External introspection. So a way to voice out loud what if you say in your normal circles, they'll look at you funny. The value of the group we find a wisdom in the community itself, keeping it alive. We've been dormant for close to 7 years. I don't know. I'm sure there was a great amount of effort to get involved, to get this event to come off. But I think we have about as many people here on this one as we had our last forum. So I gotta say, from that perspective, it's a great success. We've had plenty of opportunity to pass the baton on to younger people. We have several people that have never been here before. Fostering collaboration is always a good thing. And the mentor-mentee relationships that have occurred from this kind of group, and how you kind of flip roles almost fluidly. It's a warm group. I don't get this many hugs anywhere else. And then also kind of the mechanics of it, setting it up and breaking it down and all that stuff, everybody helps. We had so much help last night, we couldn't keep track of where everything was going. And we got to continue the word of mouth thing, so all of us are ambassadors to keep new people interested and enticed. And then, we have a lot of new people here at this event and try to get them to, some of them will stick, some of them won't, but, that has always been kind of our model. Not that it's the only model, but it has been the one that works. And it seems to get people that this type of thinking, this type of environment resonate with. Why go forward? Our group said that keeping Deming's message alive, especially since we have some people who actually met Deming. We've got a few people in this room. That number of people is dwindling, sorry to say, just because it's been 31 years since he passed away. I personally feel like this type of environment and this group and the things I learned and what have you here are very important. What would it look like? Well, we need younger people. We need new ideas, and how to execute that is kind of the core of what we're discussing. Kind of resurrecting the monthly ongoing discussions, whether they're by YouTube or Zoom, and a recognition that we need to grow. If we stay small, we will eventually all just die off. In the future, we talked about just some avenues by which we could attract people that might be good candidates to stick with this. Engage something like Young Presidents Club. They mentioned something called Vistage. I don't know what that is, but that was what I wrote down. I think we need to fix the website, and probably suggest that we find some volunteers that might be able to do that. Resume our annual meeting, and then kind of figure out a way to find a structure that is perhaps a middle ground between just a social reunion, which even this wasn't just a social reunion. There was an educational component. There was a learning opportunity situation, and then but probably recognize that a full forum like we had back in the days is maybe not in the cards without like a corporate sponsorship or something that we don't see in the offing right away. So anyway, that was our group.
My name is Perry. I'm going to speak for the last table. Much of what was covered is on our board, more graphically than in bullet points, and not and somewhat random, multiple angles. I'm going to focus on things that haven't been stated before, but again, it's in how do we take what we've started with, where Bill was the center of pretty much everybody's connection through his very many pathways through education, corporations, and what did I say? Schooling, corporations, and connections. It's just all there. How do we take that and make more hubs to create more spokes that turn into more hubs and more spokes? Then we went more down, how do we keep saying young people. I'd like to say, how do we get people that have a seed of what we've been talking about and add the water to bring them in? First robotics, high schools, home schools, universities that teach courses that, not necessarily dimming courses, but courses that bring this holistic in-thinking thoughts, and start inviting them, or get those schools to help provide a space like we did with CSUN. How can we kind of grow through those mechanisms, as well as do we want to always meet in Southern California? I tried to talk Franz into having his company bring us all over there.
Nice choice in
So that's kind of where my table was going on that particular aspect. The other item, or one other item, we all came here with a building or our boundaries, and what we hear either one-on-one or in the group sessions adds to our building, and we continue to grow. The other item we talked about was energizing the brain and stimulation, which helps us build that building. Thank you.
Is that everybody's table?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. That's
All right.
all the tables here. Now what do we want?
Okay, so we're going to switch so that you all can do your report out.
Take
So-
the paper off the
Yeah. Hang on.
Yeah, we can see
I'm
that.
going to mute my seal so you guys can talk.
All right. Should I start now?
We can hear you.
Okay. So friends, I think I'd like to open it by saying something that Tony Harrison said at the very beginning, and that is that the In2 network changed his life. And he said, and changed it for the better. And he specifically brought to mind the intersection between Bill Bellows and the enterprise thinking, Russ Akoff, and taking that into kind of the engineering side of the house, and then the work of Joel and Michelle Levy, and that intersection between taking these ideas. And then this, I'm going to build on as a group. The folks who participated virtually really spent a lot of time talking about Deming's idea about driving out fear. And we then turned that on its head and talked about bringing in more love. And we talked about what that means. And many of the themes that we talked about could be brought back to this idea of being these ideas, of building our capacity to carry these concepts within ourselves and to bring that into the world through who we are, not just to play with these process improvement ideas as a functional kind of task. And so I think that I share all of that to say I think that's some of a reflection of where we see the power of these conversations. Specifically when it comes to how do we carry this forward, there absolutely is an interest in an ongoing conversation. 7 years was too much of a gap for many of us in it. And even though we didn't get to benefit from all those hugs, and I'll tell you, I'm not the only one who said that we're feeling a little jealous about that, to those of you there in person getting to hug one another. Even without getting to hug everybody, we felt a real richness to the dialogue that happened here at even just a virtual level. And so we would perhaps report out to all of you that we can carry forward the spirit of the In connection virtually in between those opportunities for when we come together. We talked about the idea that there used to be those large conference calls, and some of us, that kind of bled into some conversation about structure potentially. So I think there is an interest in perhaps having something like a monthly or a quarterly Zoom meeting that we could come together as a network. And the structure from those old conference calls where someone would be invited to be a thought leader or to plant, to share a thought piece that then would frame something that we could collectively deep dive into. That felt positive. We had a little bit of conversation online about the importance of finding the just right balance, to have enough structure that the conversation doesn't just meander off and become unenergizing, uninteresting, and that it runs the risk of kind of petering out. So there'd be enough structure that it keeps bringing people back, but not too much structure, because we also value the opportunity to just talk with one another as human beings. And so while this didn't get verbalized in the meeting, it made me think about, there really are some really useful tools for that, for online meetings now that weren't available to us 7 to 10 years ago. We could perhaps create a structure where we come together in a large setting to have a deeper dive, and then we pull into breakout rooms to then explore that deeper dive in groups of, say, 4 to 6, where we can then have really rich dialogue that isn't stifled by a bigger online group. So I think there's some richness here that would be worthy of exploring, and I think there's definitely some interest in it. And Tony was not the only one to mention the value of this group. Deb and Doug chimed in to say how important this group continues to be to them, and others who joined online did as well. So I think there is some collective energy for us to do that. And I want to pause and open it up to the rest of the virtual attendees. Is there any of you who would like to enrich what I said, or add to or correct anything that I said? All right, nobody is volunteering. So I think I may have captured the essence of what the virtual participants would like shared here today. And one last thing.
Oops, sorry.
Continue to volunteer my Zoom connection if that is helpful. I also have a professional subscription to Microsoft Teams. So if it turns out that that's a better tool, I would be very happy to offer my connection tool and my support as a facilitator. So I would love to volunteer for whatever Teamlet comes together to think about how to carry this forward. Please consider me a member of that group.
Everybody clapped, so you missed hearing I couldn't get it switched fast enough for you to hear everybody clapping. So go ahead. Awesome. Thanks. So I'm going to turn you. Okay. So what we're going to do here now is just see if we can capture maybe some 2, 3, 4 next steps, and some people that feel like they want to take on a responsibility or a role or a task, and just kind of note those. So this is kind of like we're passing the football to somebody that's going to receive it, right? So we're going to move this ball forward, or we're going to pass it with our foot, and somebody's going to receive it. There's a few people who are going to receive some balls today. So we just want to capture that as a way to know that somebody's going to carry this forward and do something and keep the ball rolling. So would you like to stay connected for that, or do you want me to disconnect you?
I think we probably can go ahead and disconnect at this point, but know that I also am willing to share my meeting connections for the planning groups, whoever that group is, if you just connect me in, and then I'll ask in the virtual group if there's anybody else that wants to be a part of that, and if so, I'll make sure to connect you and Bill with that so that we can get the right people into the planning team.
Sounds perfect. Thank you. I'll say,
all right, I love you guys.
Goodbye. Okay, and then we get this one turned off. All right, so
That's not a touch screen.
Well, not working. I can't find the lead. I can't find the lead meeting.
Yeah, it's in Dutch, but it's
Okay, got it. Thank you. All right. Everybody knows how to turn that on. Okay, so just to hopefully do Is there anyone that would like to say, yes, I want to do something and here's what it is?
So I'll start at the bottom. I'll help whoever tells me what to do.
Myers will, what, you will help?
I will assist, I will run errands, I will. Somebody's got to tell me what to do. I'm not a competent answer.
All right, sounds good.
could bring more coffee right now.
All right, anybody else? Lori?
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, I saw Lori's hand.
Yeah, I would like to help. I'm not sure exactly what, because I do think we need some sort of maybe organizing, but also like a little bit time limited, so it won't be, just with the constraints. So help where needed, as needed, within my capacity.
Thank you. Okay, Felix?
So, I'm going to start a LinkedIn posting about InThinking, the accomplishments that we've made, how things have helped, how it creates things. Talking with Marcia about it, and I think I'll get that started hopefully next month.
Okay, so you are going to make posts on LinkedIn,
You
Just-
just tell talking to
just sharing what we're doing.
just share what we're doing, sharing the accomplishments that we've made, and reaching out and saying if you need help, reach out and we can talk about how we can help you. Because we have a network of people here that can say,
So if we have something we attribute in thinking to helping us get done, we need to forward those to you.
right. But that's the only social platform I'm on.
Okay. Sounds good. Anybody else?
Can I?
Yes.
Well,
You want to take over scribing?
I wanted to draw a picture of the universe and then
Go for it.
build some actions around that. If that's okay.
Go for it, I'm happy. with
So
it.
one thing I noticed during yesterday's working sessions was that people had a problem and everybody contributed to discussing it, dissecting it, solutions or whatever. And there was always, everything was started with yes and. There was never any argument. But there was no right answer. There's a whole bunch of good answers, right? So now what I see is, so I would just, in common terminology, it's called wisdom of the masses, right? So collectively, we're pretty smart. Collectively, we had a lot of yes ands, and we had a lot of wisdom that came out of it. Like I said, there's no right answer. Now, this is us. This is the In2 and working group, In2 and core. Now, we're talking about expanding the group to the rest of the universe, right? We like that. That's what we want. So collectively, we're here. We deal well with ambiguity. We deal well with chaos. The rest of the world may not do so well. The connection between our group here and the rest of the world are consultants. Some of us are consultants, right? That do management consulting and things like that to the outside world. And they have clients. Clients have problems that need to be solved. The consultants here answer that. What if we task the consultants in the group to say, hey, just like we did yesterday, I have a client with this problem. This comes in here. We do the same thing that we did yesterday. Feed it back to the consultant, and then they kind of consolidate that thinking and then feed it back to the client. Client says, hey, that's a great idea. Where did that come from? Yeah. And I suspect that collective wisdom answer is going to be better than the answer that the consultant would come up on their own. Mm-hmm. So you agree? So we do that. Now the client says, hey, that's a great idea. What did you come up with? Oh, here's this group that I just throw a question out there. Here's the feedback I get. Oh, that's fantastic. How do I find out? Oh, by the way, it's In2. And by the way, you're welcome to join. It's open for all. So This is the into an universe, just into an inner sphere, into an outer sphere if we choose to expand it. We have connections, strong connections within. We have one, these consultants have, unique connections, but I want to open up this connection here that would help to expand the universe. From that, I guess the action is, will the consultants be willing to be the conduit for this kind of engagement with wisdom of our masses, and then feed that back out to the client base, and then put them in, come on in, you're welcome.
Josh, is the kind of structure you envision something like a forum, where there's a website that you become a member of, and then you post a question as a topic on the forum, and then people can just add their responses to that as a thread.
Well, that would be more open, but I'm just thinking, because if it's a consultant client engagement, there's probably some privacy concerns. That's why I'm just kind of keeping it small for right now, but certainly that's another model. But right now, I'm just looking at the group and saying, well, we have consultants with it, and just kind of following what we did yesterday.
So, could you, I'm trying to make, in my brain, how does this work? So, what I did was I took, okay, there's maybe a monthly thought leader Zoom call. Could this be like a periodic problem-solving Zoom call?
It could be.
Or an in-person.
Yeah.
But it sounded like you wanted to have several people working on a problem together, kind of like the gaming community.
Well, so the same thing you had us do yesterday, which is somebody has a question, and they put it up, and then people kind of...
The open space.
The open space form. Same thing, but now the questions or the discussion topics are initiated by clients of the consultants in our group. I have a client that's trying to solve this problem. I think I have an answer, but I'd like to get the feedback from this group. Same thing like we did yesterday. And from that, that gets consolidated by the consultants, fed back to the clients, and off we go. So it's still the same relationship here. It's just that here is where we merged that with what we did yesterday in open forum. Because like I said, yesterday, there was no right answer. We had a whole bunch of good answers. And the traditional relationship, which is just this, is A answer the consultant gives to the client. Here, the consultant has the ability to get multiple responses to that question and possibly feed multiple options back, depending on the nature of the question, of course. But I think what we did yesterday was really valuable. Shows that, again, there's no one right answer. There's a whole bunch of good ones. So why don't we just go ahead and then use that as a way of hooking in this guy and say, by the way, if you want to be a part of that, you're welcome anytime.
Okay, so would you like to or be willing to start creating that model?
Okay, yeah.
And can you do that on your own, or do you want to ask for a partner in that?
Anybody wants to jump in? Yeah, I mean, I'll do this initial framework. But this is only something that's come up in the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
Can I ask something about that?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I like about being here is that there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of similar minds. And my experience as a consultant with clients, they're learning, like they're on another level and busy with other things. So I get a lot of energy from the high IQ that's here within the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to paint a bad picture of some of the clients that I have. It's not for no reason that they are a client.
Right. Agreed.
Right? So wouldn't it jeopardize the synergy that's
Inviting some toxic thing into our group?
well, not necessarily toxic, it's just
Or detrimental influence? Well, there's always that risk, but they usually self-select that.
She's trying to see she doesn't want to jump down the room. That's what she's trying to say.
What she said, she thinks the group should be like-minded people.
But the solution is they don't show up on their own time.
Right. Some self-select.
But yeah,
Right. The thing about this group is everybody self-selects in or out, right? So just because they get invited, which is, it's an interesting idea,
but that's,
how to spread the word, how to maybe invite.
Yeah.
Not everybody that gets shared with is gonna say, oh yeah, I'm interested and I wanna go to that. But there'll be some that be, oh, interesting, let me check that out.
But I would say the first thing that's beneficial just internally is that whoever the consultant is has multiple input before they respond to the client. And that could stop right there, and that's good for all of us in here. But as far as expanding the network, that's the next step, which is if the customer client appreciates what was fed to them and say, hey, I would never come up with that. And then the consultant says, you know what, I never would have come up with that either. Well, then where the hell did you get that idea from? Well, I got it from these guys over here. Oh, that's great. I want to learn more. That's when they get sucked in. But if they say, if the relationship between the consultant and the client is business as usual, fine, and stop there. But it makes life easier for the consultant. It's just that's the initial benefit, and that could stop right there. But as far as expanding, that's the next step.
But the consultant wouldn't have to say who the client is.
No.
Specifically,
That's-
it's just presenting a case study to that group,
Exactly.
right?
And only
Exactly.
if it's
So it could
something, I'm guessing you're saying only if it's something sort of, it's not gonna be every client
No,
engagement
absolutely
that a consultant gets. It's going to be the once in a while you get something that's really unique or interesting,
Something
you're like,
that's-
yeah, I could use some brainstorming on this and some idea sharing.
Yeah,
Right,
so-
and there's some confidentiality where they have to be protected
Sure.
in the way the case study gets presented, but I'm guessing
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what you're describing.
Exactly. So, there's going to be questions that come up that are Deming adjacent or Deming centric, and there is no single answer from a Deming perspective, as we found out yesterday. And here we are with 20 or 40 different interpretations of how we would apply Deming philosophy thinking to a single problem. And that's what I want to open that up to. And anyways, it's more of a chat.
Obviously, the privacy issue has to be addressed with it. I would encourage looking at the forum structure. It can be a closed environment, right, for accessible to control group of people. But some benefits of that are the same problem is going to come up again at some point in the future. It's searchable. You can look at so you can build a knowledge base over time, and those things that do come up more often than you would think, those are kind of natural, frequently asked questions type items that we might pull out of the forum and have as part of the InTu web page as a common question people have.
Okay. Anyways, sorry, Larry.
Great idea.
I don't want to be a black hat about that, but I am gonna say one thing. I don't think any of us came here searching for an answer to a problem. I think we got hooked in by resonating with the thinking. Sometimes it's just because Bill's a very curious kind of guy, but all of us got here somehow, and we haven't stayed because this is a resource where I can get my problem solved.
Yes, and I get so excited when I am able to help solve a problem.
Okay, fine. So that's a side benefit, but that's not what's keeping us here.
Right. No, I'm not presenting it as.
I have my yellow hat.
But I think it's something.
A couple of things. I found at Rocket Down there are managers and executives, people I could walk into their office, and one-on-one they'd be engaged. There are other executives I walk in, and one of the executives says, "We've got 15 minutes left for you to convince me why, and I thought, oh, she's not listening. But then I thought, if they were to come to an event like this,
Yeah.
or even if they sat in a 9-hour seminar, watching all the activities, they couldn't ignore what was going on around them. So if Mike was the guy I was trying to get into the room, I would direct attentions to Franz, and he. So I didn't poke at him. I poked at Franz. That was helpful. So even those people that show up, I mean, I think it'd be for the consultants to have a place for people to show up is a big deal. But the other thing is relative to this. I think we need a sense of what is it we do a year from now. I mean, there's got to be a grander vision.
Right.
And I remember I asked Galveston a few years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I said, would you like be in charge of the In2 InThinking network? I think it was after the last forum. There were younger people, and I thought, oh, we got a combination of people that are good at this and good at this and good at this. And Alice, would you like to be involved in that? She said, well, she's really funny. She said, so whatever the question she asked, I thought, I don't have an answer. But she took it really seriously. But I thought it wouldn't make any sense to bring the group together for another forum unless there was a long-range plan. Because otherwise it'd be like, okay, let's get the band back together one last time. I thought it's just not worth it. I mean, as exciting as it would be, I thought there's like a last goodbye. And I thought, no. But when you mentioned this, I thought, but I could see us replicating this, but I would still be asking, how do we make it sustainable? So you look at the website, and early on, Lori ran the website at Ryan, and taught me how to use Dreamweaver and things like that. And but then people say, somebody ought to, and I'd say, everything is the way it is until somebody takes initiative. So like the website today, the website was hacked. I don't know, by Russians or somebody. And I contacted the hosting company, and for free, they fixed it. But it's like they set it back 10 years. So I look at the web and I like, that's not the way it was. Well, that's the way it is until somebody wants to do something. So, so I say that if someone wants to go off and work on the website, and even there, 3 or 4 times people approach me, I'm going to go work on the website.
And then they don't.
Last, let's see. So in terms of, I think what we have to ask is, what does it take to make it sustainable? I mean, why did it, in part it faded. 2 things. I joined the Deming Institute. I couldn't do both. So Tim took over as president. But it was declining. We weren't breaking even. And so I would say is, even if I think we have to be looking at, with John Willis's help, we can get more people. Cal State Northridge, I was just thinking, where we were for a few years, their rates weren't bad. So that's a venue which has multi-rooms and bring your own food stuff. So that's a sustainable venue past the church. But still the question comes down to, who's going to be the president in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? And what do we do to help them? I think we can have a couple of reunions, but sustainability has to be a big part of this.
Okay. So I got that sustainable.
Yeah.
I got.
What you're talking about is part of that.
Yeah.
But it's not enough.
But it's
So
just part of it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of little pieces. And Mark, are you scratching or you got something to say?
I'm debating. I didn't want to volunteer, but every excuse I give, Laura's shooting down.
I'm sorry.
I keep teeing you up and see you sitting down like a ski chair. But we were brainstorming. If we step back and took time to innovation lab kind of look at this thing and say, listen, if we as an organization had some themes, some top line themes that some smarter people than me in this group would sit down and create, right? So really, the nexus of this group, the core of the core, right? We'll come up with some themes. Then if we had distributed groups that would then work on people, would then come up with and work on individually in their work groups, things around that, then this event was a crescendo event where we came and we brought all that together, right? That would do a few things. One, that would keep engagement throughout the year. It would also give a lot of purpose to these meetings, right, in terms of what we do. But it would also be easier to bring outside people in because there's topics now, there's something going on here that's really cool that they're going to want to be part of, right? As long as those top level themes resonate with them, right? Because these organizations can afford to do what we do, and what the things when we just talk about doing, they can afford to do. And to Joseph's point about kind of reaching out to consultants, I'm not able to do that one-on-one. I can't say I have an idea and bring it to this think tank and bring it back. My NDA is up for any kind of thing like that. But I wouldn't even want to flirt with you even if I anonymize and do all this kind of stuff. But I can say we've got the really smart people getting together, and I can get executives excited about that, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a model to be built that's a lot like how an innovation lab works, where we take some teams, we split out pieces of that, components of that working groups have interest in, that self-select into those working groups, and then we come together and we pull it all together and we make a cool event out of it. And if that's an interest of people, I'm happy to be part of that. And if there's not an interest, I'm happy to.
Yeah. I like that idea. So can we partner on that to hold that and take that ball forward?
Yeah, I do like that.
Mark, I think also the same group you were asking if In2 is a nonprofit, and that jumped to, could a grant be gotten to have a paid person who really had the time over the course of a paid year to pursue opportunities to grow the audience. So.
And be like a community, almost like a community advocate who would come up with community ideas, but also be able to execute them. Somebody understood how to execute and actually, those tools, right?
Which is kind of what Bill was doing when he worked for the Denning Institute. Somebody who's there as part of a nonprofit to grow the community.
The last thing we talked about while I'm up here speaking nonsense is, is there a membership kind of model where we charge membership for this, right? And maybe if you take on certain volunteering actions to keep that sustainable, maybe you get some fees waived if you're the person with the web posting, these things, right? But, we respond that way through membership fees.
Well, in the very beginning, we talked about membership. And the challenge there is a set of expectations of getting something from a bunch of volunteers, and you get some full-time job. And so then the strategy was to stay away from anything that involved that. I mean, try to do everything. Well, unless there was a vision of an organization with a funded staff, which is not out of the question, but this just wasn't part of the original vision.
Really? So I used to be part of Fascinating Angels. It was an angel investment group, and I was part of it. But we had to pay to be members of that group. And it was all volunteers. And we all had roles. I was the chairman or something. We all had roles. But we had to pay to play. If we wanted to sit around in this group with all these smart people looking at investment together and getting the community with them, it was pay to play. We paid. It wasn't a lot. It was like $1,000 a year, $1,200 bucks. It wasn't a lot. But I think that's the way to fundraise, right? It's a way to get some money in. And that's and everybody's room would be willing to pay a little bit of money to be part of this. That meant that we could become more sustainable.
So I would say, from my perspective, coming into this, when I heard about it, I knew Bill, and $200 was not even. I would have paid $500. I wouldn't have blinked. I think, to me, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think what happened here this weekend was incredible to me. And so it's the idea of maybe bringing new people in. I don't want to put the burden on you, but I'd run it again next year, and I'd try to grow it a little bit. I don't know that I'd go into a lot of different sort of horizontal schemes of working groups and all this stuff that we know probably aren't going to work. Right? I mean, it's just like your website. Everybody says I'm going to work. Like I pay 5 people to run my website. I will not volunteer to run anyone's website. Right? That's why years ago I realized like that's not something I like to do. So I pay people to do that. I just a sort of outsider perspective. I thought this was an incredible weekend. Make me king for a day. I'd run it again next year. I'd add a few more people, and I'd do the same thing over again. And as long as it was financially feasible for you and what it takes to run it. Again, that's my outside view of, I thought this weekend was well worth my effort to come out here, time and money. So.
But
okay.
I would think what I would ask is, could we get agreement on repeating what we did with this model as a 1-year plan, while simultaneously working on a sustainability plan? Because the idea is that there's one people that couldn't be here because they didn't know the dates conflicted. So I'd say that the sooner we can get agreement on let's do kind of the same thing, with extra people, that room holds more people. Now what we do on Sunday, okay, we got to go there's outside, but if we shifted the time frame, we'd have more space. I mean, we could be outside. So I would wonder is if there's a team looking at what do we do, what event would we do next year like this, while another team is looking at a sustainable future. Because then they can go on in parallel.
Yeah. I think this year we're coming off a gap of 7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's lots of people have lots of things that they want to probably wanting to talk about, and this the open format discussion structure it worked well. Will that repeat again in a year as well, or would it make sense to say, well, let's target in a year's time having 2 or 3 presentations in the mix or something like that, where there's people who would volunteer to put something together that there's also, if we're trying to broaden the audience, if I go to somebody who's just not really familiar with In2 and I show them this open space and all this kind of stuff, it's a schedule has nothing on it, right? Why do I want to go to this thing? Well, trust me, it's going to be good because there's a lot of cool people who are going to have great ideas and it's going to be interesting to attend. It comes down to whether they trust me.
But what
if I point to something and said, you'll be able to write down these topics specifically, that's going to be an easier broad.
Yeah,
but
even just adding a theme and some theme related, whether they're problems to solve or questions to ponder together, you start forming, you have some structure to invite people to.
Yeah.
That's crafting the invitation. So that's I think that's what you're asking for.
Why would it, for us, why would we go to this? Well, if it's just we're going to get to hang out with all these people we really like, that's enough of a reason, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Monica and then Bonnie.
So I'm sitting back there listening. And it's been my experience that if we leave this room without making a decision on a time frame for next year and part of a structure for next year, we're going to go off and it's not going to be done because everybody's going to be in a different location. So I think we need to pick a month. I like Ian's idea, what he said about if we do it the same, it's going to be the same people. So I think we need a theme, and I think there could be like a pre-conference or on Friday where we had presentations or workshops. And then we find the location. And if we have to use the same location again, we can make sure that the upstairs room is empty, and there could be 2 separate things. Or there could be something, if we do it in the month that we know it's gonna be not 100 degrees and not raining, that you could use the outside space as well.
Well, and the other thing, because my based on what you're saying is,
Bonnie was next.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's really brief. I was just gonna offer a clarification to it, and what you were commenting about wanting a little more structure. Completely agree. I think at this moment, what we're looking for is agreement that we want to do something again approximately a year from now. The shape, the exact form of that agenda would be built by the group of people that agree to be the leads in creating that, with the feedback, as you just offered, right? A little more formality, some open space, free type time, but also a few more formal presentations and, teaching perhaps opportunities.
And that
So I
would
think
bring other
just-
people in.
And
by
that
doing
would bring other people in. But I agree. I think what we're looking for right now is a sort of consensus of are people willing enough to help? Because I think it was a very small number of people that shouldered a lot of putting this weekend together. I'm very grateful to them for that.
Yes, thank you.
That's what we're looking for, right? As an initial, okay, who wants to be part of that team and figuring out what that looks like? And thinking, Monica, yes, we gotta pick a time frame and a couple people that are big points of contact to get started, or we will make it.
So that seems like there's one key question there. Do we, it may be
Wanna
modified,
do it?
but do we want to do another one of these next year?
I vote yes.
Yeah.
And a couple people that aren't with us, said to me that they were interested and willing to be part of planning it.
Okay, now what month?
This month.
And what location? Do we
Well,
want to do it back here in South Florida?
What I'm going to throw out is, with a structured pre, we could call it a forum.
Yep.
But there's two options on locations that are reasonably priced. One involves the church in that space and upstairs, so that's dual track. Could we be there all day on a Thursday?
No, it's me.
Hmm?
No, the kids are there.
So
I don't know, I'd have to find out.
so that's okay.
Things to figure out.
So we were at Cal State Northridge has a conference center. I could look at what their pricing is. And that would give us a
closer to
feel
airports.
for what would, but all the pre-conference presenters, nobody gets paid. Everybody covers their travel. We look at the beauty of Cal State Northridge is all these supplies we bought were to make our own coffee and do all that. So the meal costs come down. The rooms were maybe $1,000 each, but there's plenty of space. So, but the other aspect relative to date is, the reason the forum is held in June is the students are out and there's parking. If we do it earlier than that, even if we got the space, parking is a nightmare.
I was thinking about that. Now, I thought, what about during their spring break? During their spring break, if we wanted to do it earlier in the year.
They still have, well, we were, when
We
we did it last time.
explored a bunch of things, and
When we were doing it last time, we were trying to get people in the dorms.
That's the other aspect.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the other aspect, thanks. And the dorms worked out really well. That's the other aspect we're looking for.
Right.
Plus it gave us more time.
But the students are still there, even though.
No, but their dorms we moved into. What I'd say is that we could simultaneously be thinking about both venues, look at prices, get a sense of.
You have a rough idea of what it would cost? Well, like, what did it cost for all the conference facilities the last?
Yeah, but then we have sponsors that could cover those things, but if we went to the university, that really opens it up. And so if we ask, I could ask Alan. I'm sure. I mean, Alan donated, so there's money out there to be able to. So maybe within a time frame, we get a feeling for, do we have the donations, what are the expenses? And then we commit to a venue and a time frame, and then we fill it in.
Well, I could say that, you know, if you chose a June date, if you chose June as your month, you could do the same thing at the church. Because the children are not in session, and then you could use it on a Thursday, because the children are only there Monday, Thursday.
So for flexibility, are we ready to go with June so we have a couple options?
That's right. If we move the June, it opens it up.
Okay.
I propose that's the decision.
All in favor?
Aye.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let's go with.
Okay.
So
June 2025, be here.
June and roughly here again.
Southern
Southern California. I don't mean here in this building. I mean
Oh, this
Southern
Southern California.
Southern California, LA, greater LA area.
Until we can figure out.
Yeah, but remember, there's only
There's
6
one
hours.
less than that.
The kids are out of school, they're in that pool. I'm not going
The
there.
what?
Less
Would that be sitting here?
So then we need somebody to work on those things while somebody else is working on
right. So
the
we
program.
have. It sounds like I have 3 parallel tracks going. One is some like activities, like monthly activities. So that's one parallel track. Then we have designing next year's gathering. The next in-person thing. And then we have the building out the future innovation lab track. Does that sound about right, like what we've come up with?
I think there's one more.
What's that?
An ongoing conversation for members and also more opportunities to bring in new members like Jamie proposed.
Okay, that's my idea of the activities track.
Oh, okay.
The ongoing things that
Oh,
are
I'm sorry.
happening.
Okay, sure.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll more specify these. I just want to capture them. More long term. Okay, does that sound right? And we have. So, I would love to have like 3 people volunteer to start working on next year's. The committee, the team for next year. Bill, Mike, and Chuck?
Would you need to be in Southern California?
No.
That's good.
No. Was I?
Well, Ian's a long ways away from Southern California.
And I could be an adjunct to that, in that I would help try to bring in some people from sort of DevOps and software. You know, I don't necessarily be on the committee, but anyway, I can help bring in some more people.
I'm gonna call it somewhere.
Ian raised his hand as well, not that I don't
I put that down.
Then how do we want to fit the Jamie fit in that list?
I'll throw her on there.
Well,
With a
you
question
mentioned
mark.
wanting to be involved. so
Yeah, with a question. Awesome.
Being involved in which piece you pick up or what you help with.
Okay. So I need one of these people to just be the lead so that we know we can check in and like, is your group moving forward? So who wants to be the lead? Oh, Mike, you're awesome. All right. Just a little asterisk. Okay. Did I miss anything? Is there a buy-in that we need to? agree to?
No, we're gonna have lots of
Or-
steps. What milestone?
This group, can you agree to have your first meeting by a certain date? What, like a month or 2 weeks, or what do you guys want to do?
Easily a month.
Okay,
A
so,
month for a decision or proposal.
Yeah, being that we're at the beginning of March, that puts us in April, so.
I'll just put April first.
Bill, you-
Yeah, fools, but.
I don't want to post the bill on time. Choose contacts at some time
Yeah,
to try to get.
yeah,
It'd be good to have a pricing structure from them both by the end of
Right.
April. So they'll check.
right, right.
So I don't want to wait till April and then call them if you can.
Yeah.
I'll be your right-hand person, because I'm not working.
If you can help with that, then we can try to.
You should be his left-hand person, he already has a good right hand.
Whatever. Co-lead. I'll be an octopus.
She's the co-lead.
Are we gonna get the online folks in and give them an opportunity to volunteer for things as well?
Yeah.
I think Maria, Jamie already said.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be having a call with Jamie, so we'll talk, she's gonna debrief me on, and I'm gonna debrief her, and then we'll start connecting people. So, that sound good?
Or do we want to volunteer any of those people right now? Sorry.
Yes.
Just being facetious.
No,
Have I missed anything in terms of getting the ball, getting the ball to keep moving? We look like it's gonna keep rolling? Are we comfortable with this? Yes, ma'am. Lisa?
Lori's a bully.
Can we specify which Lori's a bully? This one wants to not be seen as a bully.
Does Lori ask work?
When we were talking at this table and I'm kind of being pressured into it, that's why you said Laura's being bullied. Like, shared ID. So here it is. The idea is to make or generate some sort of resume kind of thing for every person. Like, what are your interests? What are your experiences? And create like a general database of skills and interests and activities.
That sounds wonderful.
So whenever anyone within the community needs something, they can look at it and see like, oh, maybe this person could help me out with this because it's in their field of interest or it's within their expertise or experience. So if you need a speaker or an inspiration or a discussion group or anything within your what's happening.
Asking whether.
And I did volunteer then. I'll put that, by the way, I wasn't.
So what would we name that? Like a membership database or?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a.
We built it. We built
The
a skills
list.
matrix. When we do it for clients, we call them skills matrix.
Skills matrix, love it.
Skills matrix.
Okay. So do you want me to put your two names down for that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Or you can just block off.
It's gonna be in Dutch time though.
And Mark's gonna give us some templates.
That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. Oh, that's really helpful.
Teamwork. That is, everybody wants to contribute.
Yeah, opt in.
And you can sign up short as well.
I will.
She said she wanted to help forget it.
Are you forgetting your last name, Elisa?
That's great. They like.
Sorry?
I forgot your last name.
S.
Us.
S.
That's the easiest, yes.
S. Super.
Okay. And you'll be starting that by,
Well, yeah, you can make more.
Yes. Yep, yep.
We'll get an email chain going.
And just like.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I'll create a draft template.
Create a draft template and then distribute it to the group and start populating.
Add my name next to Steve B.
Sure, yeah.
Next to.
Add my name next to Steve B.
Sounds good.
So that
Okay. Good. Are we
We
good?
have a master email list for everybody who attended.
Yeah, but
We
people have
have a
asked, I think we
collection.
could send it out to everyone saying, are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, so I will give myself the task to email everyone with some kind of highlights and and are you okay with sharing?
Well, what you can say is that if we don't hear from you within a week.
Not there, not
Can I
there.
ask, is it
Yeah.
two separate emails?
Which two?
You're gonna send it, somebody, something, and then you're gonna send this, ask about
Okay.
sharing emails.
Okay.
That'll get lost in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, let's jump.
That should be an opt-out email.
Yeah.
Please reply if you do not want your email to be put onto the district.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
You gotta opt out.
You gotta opt out, not in.
Right. No, absolutely, no,
The
I
default is text for other things.
The opt-in may not. He does not.
You can always opt out.
It works.
Yeah, no one opts in. Even very low acceptance
It's a
rate.
very small number, a very small group.
Okay. Do I need a month?
Yes.
So we may ask a question.
Yeah, you can ask a question.
So some people, this is the first time we've ever been to an event. We have a different perspective than the rest of us. It can be difficult coming to an event where there's a lot of people who've been coming for a long time and know each other. Do you feel welcome? Is there anything that you could do differently? Do you feel more at ease, more welcome into the group?
I thought you were all terrible people.
Can't wait to come back for more.
I moved my flight up. No, like I said, Friday night, I was a little bit sort of reserved because I saw all the hugging and the like. No, honestly, that wasn't because of hugging. I mean, I'm the greatest hugger there ever was, right? So, so Friday night, but I kind of stepped back a little, which is rare for me. I speak a lot, as you already know, right? But it was good, right? But I didn't feel like there were certain people I didn't feel like approaching. Some people approached me. Saturday was just a watershed of welcoming. I just felt, I said earlier, I felt like I was on the outside of the circle on Friday night. On Saturday, I felt I was inside of the circle. So I think, this community is, again, that's why I'm excited to try to, be an adjunct to helping decide how can I bring more people into this. Because I had a phenomenal experience.
So John, you said you went from outside the circle to inside the circle.
Uh-oh.
Was that an intrinsic thing that you stepped?
Yeah, no.
Or did we?
No. I mean, I'm basically a shy person. Like most people they can't deal with the fact that I speak around the world and I do stuff. But I'm not very motivated to just go up to somebody I don't know and I'm comfortable. And so it wasn't your group. It was me just, not sort of a little bit on my guard. So, but again, by the time we got into sort of the discussions, the open discussions, and it was clearly that I felt like I was part of this group. So
Was there something that you could point to as part of the structure or people's behavior that we need to make sure that we don't lose?
It's back to the if it's not broken, don't fix it. I think that you're very welcoming. You're very open-minded. You, the intellectual, for people that I know, like Bill has already got a crazy following for people. Just because I did a couple of podcasts with him, there are people already asking me about you. So I think everybody here had that level of inquisition and like wanting to learn, and the people I hang around with are those kind of people. And that's why Saturday I felt very sort of I felt part of the thing.
Can I throw an observation?
Sure.
Because you and Ian and I couldn't figure out how to get in. I think
Well, he was crazy. He climbed over the fence.
I know he did.
Me and you were cringing while he did
Well,
it.
I think the three of us maybe. I felt on Friday I was like frazzled. So maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was definitely nothing to do with the group. It was totally, to your point, it was me. Like just a new group. Am I so I just found out about this on Thursday from Dick Steele, and I sent an email because I was coming out Monday to LA for a bunch of other things I was doing there, and I sent Bill. My wife said, "Are you going or not?" I'm like, "I don't know. This Bill guy hasn't got back to me yet." And then his first word was capital WOW. I'm like, I think I'm invited. So so I didn't know. You know what I mean? I don't know most of you. I don't know. So.
Well, they'd already started when we walked in too. I mean, they were.
Yeah, no, I you too, but I didn't really know. It was somebody else who told me who Ian was, like Saturday. It was Dick who told you because I had been talking to Dick a bunch. I had him on a podcast. We talked. I'm in his book club. He's in my book club, and I had met you, but I didn't know who you were. And then he said, "Oh yeah, he's the president of my company." I'm like, "Oh," because I knew about his company. So yeah. Anyway, Mark. Yeah. What's that?
You're a newbie. Oh.
First time.
Incredibly welcoming group. I felt incredibly welcome. Did and probably still do feel a little like I'm not totally qualified to be here. My background's different. I don't have a lot of different background this morning.
You can sit at my table.
But it's incredibly welcoming and really honestly an honor to be here and to be with you folks. And some of the things I heard was just awe-inspiring presence that I was really humbled by.
The agreement we made months ago was. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't check our.
Sorry, I thought that was a horrible.
It's age related.
She's looking at me.
Alright, so I actually feel the same as the other first timers, and I can add to that I've been part of new groups multiple times, and I think this is the easiest group to get into, even though there's an age gap. I just heard you just say you have to say like this stuff to
You're closing the gap though, because I used to be only, I'm nowhere near twice as old as you and I used to be.
Well, mind the gap.
Well, so I think, and the most valuable thing that contributed to that is the willingness to listen from everyone. So, thank you for that. Thank you.
Welcome.
What we talked about is we're not opening it up to the world. And anyone who's been there has to speak with those and let them know what to expect.
Yeah.
So you and I spoke for an hour or so. I spoke for an hour or so with David Wiedemark.
Even I spoke to somebody for an hour.
What's that?
Even I spoke to somebody for an hour.
Well, if you only talk to Bill for an hour, you're doing good.
No, somebody that Bill told about it, and she called me, and I talked to him for an hour. So, yeah. So,
but we had those 2-hour webinars, and there wasn't the time to say we'll do it faster.
You want to.
Because it wasn't, but if there wasn't time to make sure the expectations are right, especially if you're traveling here.
Yeah.
So John Leonard and I first talking last fall, introduced by Emma, but the idea is making sure that the people who came here had an appropriate expectation, especially if they're getting on an airplane.
So I was already coming here.
But the other thing was, why not an activity from those who are new to help us understand how to improve that experience?
Yeah.
Such a, because we used to at the beginning, how many of you have been here one time, and everyone knew who they were. Part of our challenge was, I don't know if we put a little star in the badge maybe, but we wanted some discreet way of, we knew that we wanted the people that were new to somehow be known. But if John's inviting a bunch of people that we don't know, I think we ought to be looking at what process will we use to formally become more aware of that?
When I was at one of the tables, one of the discussions that we had was how to bring in the right kind of people and find our audience to grow it, right? And I should have said this then, and I was just telling Gary, I wasn't the right kind of person when Bill brought me in. I don't do management, I don't do leadership, I don't do systems thinking, I'm not an engineer. When Bill brought me in, I was like, why do you want me to come and do a pre-conference session? I ended up doing 6 or 7 of them over the years. And it's simply because I was involved in education and this brain program. And to me, in the beginning, I was the one experiencing the explosive growth because everybody else, to me anyway, maybe they liked my sessions, but to me, they had a like-mindedness I didn't have. And yet, it has helped me grow incredibly. At the Deming Institute, I just think we shouldn't limit who we invite to a certain kind of people all the time. I realize they're more likely to come if they're leaders or managers or they have a pain point they're trying to solve, but other people like me can learn too and will become an ongoing attendee.
There was never a limit. Other than this year, we wanted to make sure. Well, we're size constrained as well.
Yeah, this year is an anomaly. I mean, this is a reunion, and the question of do we want to get this started again? And if so, what? In what?
Well, and what if some of those people showed up and turned the whole thing upside down?
Yes. And I've always had the idea or the concept that we do want to invite people like you. And I remember so many, the end of the forums when we were there presenting, how many people said that was their favorite breakout session. It was so long. But you just don't know.
Well,
we also had the Levies.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That gave us a different way of thinking that everybody comes out with a different experience. And was it Tom Johnson and his wife, right? The one on the brain side, one on more of a Toyota philosophy side, but always use that as an example of how you can bend your own industry or personal life around. So,
well, when I was Brad, we invited in and had speak twice the president of the Society of Organizational Learning, several people high up in that organization. Peter Senge offered to appear pro bono, and he would come if he was in town for another engagement, and it worked. And then we started thinking about, well, how do we arrange for him to be in LA? And we thought, we don't have, and likewise, there are some others in that category that would attend. But then I thought, that's a lot of work for us to do to get them speaking engagements, never mind. But we had the president of Pegasus Communications speak, John Burton, too.
Ginny Wadman.
We were bringing in top level people from all these other organizations. I couldn't get, I tried several times with Tom Johnson's help to get Gypsy on the program to speak at Pegasus. They weren't interested, but we weren't. So our community was bringing people from many communities from day one.
Yes.
Which
All
is why it wasn't called the Deming Forum.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
And it took a
So we're way past when we said we were going to end, and people might be hungry and or whatever. So I want to help us kind of conclude this. We have just a couple more items we need to take care of. We're going to start the bidding at 300. Is there anybody that would like to bid 300? That as the starting bid. For this is the older one, right? 2008.
No, the 300 was a Dodge. Oh, no.
The Dodgers is one we just signed.
Yeah. I was wrong.
Did everybody get to sign? Is everybody in?
Anyway. Going once?
Well, I'm a diehard Yankee fan, but yeah.
Going twice? Okay, nobody's bidding on that, all right. Anybody want to bid on this year? We're going to bid at 300.
Only if the Yankees beat the Dodgers in this world next year.
I'm not doing contingencies. Okay. Well, I did my best.
Okay. Next year I'll bring a $400 sculpture that Payman Ojan made that's in our attic. Which is.
Okay.
Is that the?
That's the
Lori's bid
the wooden
300.
sculpture.
No. Actually, someone lost a little charm that has an N on it, so I don't know. Okay.
Interesting set of jerseys. When I first started rooting for the Dodgers, they hadn't won a World Series. They beat the Yankees in '55.
Yeah,
First
we
World
won,
Series.
we won 27. Wait a second.
All right. Before we diverge into other conversations, is there anything else we need to do before we move on? Have I forgotten anything?
We need to thank you.
I accept the love. Thank you.